To the Blitz Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Kane Schwartz. It feels good to be talking football again. We missed the podcast at the end of last week because, two of us at least are in the midst of our college fall semesters for college. So, that tends to get in the way at times. Theoretically, I'd like to get out with a degree here. That's the plan. But, so sometimes I have to make slight sacrifices, but feels good to be. I'm fucking ready to talk about some more football today. It's been building up since we did the podcast. How you boys feeling? I'm hype. Tyler?
Yeah, doing great. Actually going to be going to my first home Vikings game this upcoming week against the Bears. So excited for that. I got some great seats. So definitely be looking into Blitz Pod Instagram. Going to be doing a little takeover and showcasing that absolutely gorgeous stadium. Yes, I'm biased, but I think US Bank is probably in one of the top 5, top 6 stadiums as far as not only amenities, but just how it's laid out, where it is in the city and everything else. So I've heard nothing but incredible things. So I'm excited to experience it. And yeah, man, just another week. Week 4 was freaking crazy again. I mean, it started Sunday with the double doink in London and double doink part 2, I should say. And there were just seemed like crazy finishes, close games, and the parity is ridiculous in the NFL. Literally any team can beat any team any single week, it seems like. So, excited to be back with you boys, talking some football, and I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, man. Jaden, you ready to run it back on our power rankings?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Finally we're starting the Kenny Pickett experience.
Yeah, man. It's an exciting time. And I'm officially knee deep, head deep into the Carson Wentz experience. Oh my goodness. But yeah, we'll talk about that and more later on. But as we did last week, we are going to put together our week 4 power. Yeah, now that week 4 is past, week 4 power rankings, week 5 power rankings, whatever you would like to consider them. But after week 4's action, we're going to take last week's power rankings that we put out, and we're going to edit them right here in the tier maker on the podcast live. So, without further ado, let's dive into it, boys. So, first one that I got is, this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think that the Chiefs move ahead of the Bills after their performance on Sunday night.
I agree.
And
I agree.
Now, this question will be answered not this week, but next week because Bills play at the Chiefs next week.
Good point. And then I got the Bills.
So it'll be basically for this week, maybe obviously going into next week, and then we'll have our deciding factor on who that team is because the Chiefs play the Raiders at home on Monday night, and the Bills play the Steelers. So if they both win, I don't know what their schedule is next, and then they would be playing each other next week. So it's looking like we're going to have 2 4-1 teams if they both win facing off, and that's going to be that game's always good between those two teams, and it's going to be
sure.
Great.
I mean, a rematch of probably the best football game we've ever seen last year. So,
yeah, I was looking at, and it's in Kansas City again, and I was looking at, and they're like $260, $270 for the cheapest ticket. So, I mean, it's the most expensive ticket for the Chiefs this year by far, and I mean, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
Now, we run into the hottest team in football, the only team that is 4-0 right now, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. The only obviously they belong at 3. Do they hop in front of the Bills?
Do they? I was gonna say, I would probably put them in front of the Bills. The one thing the Bills did this past week that I will give them credit, they finally won a close game. They were 0-7 in the last 7 in games decided by 1 possession. So they finally got that monkey
came
off
back
their
too, big time.
That was not, came back. I mean, like everybody seems to do against the Ravens, but that wasn't like a convincing victory to me. Like the Ravens were up 20-3 in that game, and they scored however many it was, 20 unanswered or whatever. But I think the Eagles are just the injuries that the Bills have suffered. I think the Eagles are a more complete team.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's tough to measure just because of all the preseason hype for the Bills. But I mean, on paper, they're the only 4-0 team right now in football, and they look like it. So I thought it was going to be a test for them, the Jags, and I do think that the weather had a lot to do with the Eagles winning, obviously, because their run game was able to flourish. But I don't know. Jaden, what do you think?
I still have Buffalo at 2. Probably starting about early in the second quarter, they dominated for the rest of the game. And like you even look at their one loss against Miami, they outgained them something crazy like 450 to 190 in yardage against Miami. So plus with the temperature there, obviously from being from Buffalo, that's something you got to deal with. But you could say that's probably a reason why they started to wear down later in the game. I know the injuries that happened to Micah Hyde. That
I think they had 40
them,
minutes of possession in that game.
Just Trey White,
insane.
They had 90. They had 90 plays for 497 yards. The Bills did in that Dolphins game. But Josh Allen threw the ball. He threw the ball 63 times, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, but we're gonna start seeing the IR guys come back because we're now in week 5. The IR is 4 weeks, so we're gonna start seeing those guys come back. I don't know if Tre'Davious White is gonna be playing this week, but obviously if he does, that's a huge boost for them. I could totally see the argument for Philly at 2. Like I'm with that if that's what you guys want to do. I have Buffalo at 2, but
I feel like we just gotta hats off to the Eagles. Let's put them at 2 for now, because really we'll know next week what the deal is. Because when the Chiefs play the Bills, we'll know. But for now, let's side the only 4-0 team in football to the number 2 spot. Now we run into a list of teams that really need to go down, and I'll just go off the list. I think the Dolphins need to go down, the Ravens, the Bucks, and the Rams.
Yeah, honestly.
Oh, I moved the Ravens up.
Oh, I can't.
I moved the Ravens to 4.
And this is why I don't disagree with Jaden here is because look at the teams that are behind them. Like, the Packers won, but like against a third-string quarterback, and that was not convincing at all. The Bucks, they did not look good. The Rams, that is a team that if we want to really get into it, I think they have got some extreme problems in Los Angeles with the Rams. And we talked about it week 1, talking about after that Bills game, that offensive line, and it continues to present problems. Even without Eric Armstead, the 49ers were able to get pressure with 4 guys pretty easily.
And that secondary is so bad.
So I think that
secondary is so bad.
Yeah, that team is got some big question marks. So I agree with Jaden on that as far as bumping Baltimore to 4.
That's why, because the Ravens just kind of fell up by default. Like they lost, but you think about it, the Ravens lost on 2 plays.
Here's a stat: the Ravens have trailed for 14 seconds this entire year, and
their defense is so horrific. Like, I don't think that we can move them up with their performance that they had again on Sunday.
Yeah, but okay. I can't confidently say that Green Bay is better than them because their defense is also horrific. For a team that, like, when we came into the season, we were saying that the defense is going to have to carry this team with the weapons not really being there, and Rodgers is going to make a play when he needs to.
It shut down the Bucs for the most part. It shut down the Bucs for the most part.
I feel like every game they've been apart. Yeah, but that's the Bucs practice squad with Tom Brady.
The one team,
and I mean, like Bailey Zappi. That's the worst group of playmakers in the league with the worst quarterback, 100% the worst quarterback that started in a game or ended up playing the majority of the game this week.
Get the argument. Like, you look at the teams behind them in that first tier, and it makes sense to move Baltimore up. But we do have some tier 2 teams that should be in that top tier, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Niners are up there. The Niners are up there. The Chargers are up there. And the Bengals are up there, in my opinion.
Chargers aren't up there, dude. Chargers.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I'm not ready to move the Chargers
Niners.
back up.
Well, the injury
just
problems,
because of the injury problems, and they beat.
I mean, after their performance last night,
I think you could put. I think San Fran could have an argument to be ahead of the Ravens. I really and truly.
I think that's what should be the case.
San Fran's 2-1. If you want me to be honest, because we're not counting that Bears game. We literally cannot. We talked about the bad weather this past week. Nothing compared to what that weather was in Chicago in week 1. I mean, Elijah Mitchell was out. I didn't even look at any of the other statistics because it was just a wash of a game, quite literally and figuratively. But I think San Fran is, in my opinion, one of the more complete teams, even with Jimmy G. He's going to manage the game. He's going to do what he needs to do. He's going to get the ball to Debo, Kittle, and Ayuk. And Their line's pretty good. I mean, their line held up really well last night against a very good front with Los Angeles, and that was without Trent Williams. So like Trent Williams comes back, and
they made the NFC Championship last year in a much more difficult NFC. Like it's going to be.
They've made it like what 2 of the last 3 years?
I think so.
3,
2 of the last 3
straight. But yeah, Kyle Shanahan knows what to do. Yeah. I'll give him that.
So. Yeah, I like the Niners in front of the Ravens, and then the Packers. I like that, and then do the Bucks? Are we moving?
I think the Bengals move up. I think the Bengals should move up.
I move the Bengals up, and I move the Dolphins
because you have
down.
To factor in the Tua injury with this, because now that
he's probably out at least 2 weeks just because of all the backlash and stuff. They're going to hold him out even when they, may not need to if this whole if this whole media storm wasn't happening.
Oh, no.
I do have Tampa in front of Green Bay.
Go ahead. Make the argument.
I know. Look, what played when Green Bay played Tampa on Sunday night, that is not the Tampa that they're going to have for the rest of the year. They had essentially what Green Bay had at receiver, but now they're getting back.
Those were their top 3 in that game.
Yeah, and now they have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans both coming back in the same week, and Julio. Chris Godwin looked great. I think he caught 7
they are going to have
targets. Mike Evans.
I will say the ones.
Godwin came out of that game for a little while too. I mean, you guys I hate to use the term injury prone, but like
he's exactly it.
I mean, first it was recovering from torn ACL, then it was the hamstring. This past game was the shoulder.
I think they're forcing him back to
everything.
I think. I mean, they're asking if he was on a team that was like if he was on the Jets or the Falcons or something, Agreed. He wouldn't be playing right now. It's the urgency that comes with being on a Tom Brady team that's kind of forcing him back probably a little bit too soon than he should be. And Green Bay, man, I just have not been like overly impressed with any of their wins.
It's
so far.
because the Packers define their offense with the run game nowadays. Like now that they have A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, and Aaron Rodgers is on the backside of his career with not that many weapons to throw to, it's a run-based offense, and that's always not going to look sexy. It doesn't look like the classic Packers, sure, but they're winning football games.
I mean, barely. Like that is a win that
the Packers are winning challenges.
Bailey Zappi was the starter. I'll tell you this: if Bailey Zappi was the starter going into that game, the Packers would have been favored by 2 touchdowns.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, they were still a 10-point favorite, and they sneaked out of that. I mean, They were one Bailey Zappi completion away from losing that game on that 3rd down at the end of regulation. They were that freaking close to losing that game.
And they're 1 2-point conversion away from losing to Tampa Bay, or going to overtime against Tampa Bay, and it's a coin flip. You're 1 win on the season, Chicago.
Justin Fields, we'll talk about. I mean, we could talk about that, whether or not he got in or not. I mean, that was close as well. It's the NFL. It's parity. I'm not going to say you can.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't play the what if game to a certain degree, but like that's why I don't feel as good about Green Bay, especially as I did coming into the season. Like I think I had them as my number 1 ranked defense, and I mean they look like a middle of the pack.
The other thing with Green Bay, the conversation between the 2 bays here, Tampa and Green Bay. Tom Brady is about to be a single man. And you better believe that this guy is going to come. I was looking at the lines, for this upcoming week, and they're 8.5-point favorites against the Falcons. And we can talk about them too. But I was like, damn, the Falcons, I kind of like that line. Like, give me 8.5 from the Falcons. Like they're playing some good ball. That's and then this news came out about Brady, and I was like, oh no, they're winning this game by 21, maybe 28. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous how bad they're.
Okay, I can tell you guys really love the Bucs, and that's cool. Like that's it. I'll play the devil's advocate here. Their running game, Lenny, does not look good. He has not looked like the Lenny of last year. And without the threat of a run game and giving it to a 45-year-old man to throw 50 times in a game, I don't think that's going to withstand for the rest of the year.
I know he fumbled the opening snap, but I really like Rachaad White. I think he could be the difference maker in that offense. I know we're talking about Lenny, but who's the person that can take some of that off of Lenny's shoulders is Rachaad White, and he's a receiving back too, so he can absolutely catch those passes out of the backfield. I don't know if Giovanni Bernard's coming back. I know he's been hurt. I don't know what his status is, But I think that is going to make a complete difference with this offense, is incorporating him more into the offense and taking the load off of Lenny and almost being like a goal, maybe not a goal line, but like a red zone back for Lenny, or, game flow as far as like if they're up running the ball with Lenny. But you put those you put those wide receivers now on the field with a solid running back, in my opinion. I think that this offense is going to really start clicking. And you got to think that defense is going to be pissed off about what just happened this past week. That is not the Bucs D. They got absolutely shredded.
They did. I don't know. It sounds nice, and Rachaad White did get a lot of playing time on Sunday.
I'll do this. I will agree with you on the Bucs on where they are right now, but like next week, I would absolutely probably move them up if both teams win.
Okay. If we're not
cool with
putting them
that.
in front of
I'm
Green
cool
Bay,
with
they
that.
have to be in
That's
front.
cool.
I think they have to be in front.
I agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, me
and
too.
then I'm good with the
All
first
right.
tier after.
So
you don't think there's an argument for Minnesota to be in front of Cincy?
No.
Nope.
I mean, if you want to make the argument, I don't.
Nope.
So let me ask you this, because the Vikings schedule, the next 4 games are against the Bears, at the Dolphins, maybe without Tua, Cardinals in Minnesota, and then at the Commanders. Could be looking at 7-1. Are we still just going to underestimate them because of the teams they beat?
Yeah, but with the way that the Vikings play, you could be looking at like 4-4.
Exactly.
And I'm not basing these power rankings off of like ease of schedule going forward. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, and that's why I'm hesitant to move them into the top 8 because of that. Like, because of I don't trust them.
They look good
to win easy
and they
games.
beat the Saints in a close game, which they almost lost.
It's in London, man. Anything happens in London. They had some breaks in that game. Absolutely,
English
they caught some breaks in that game. I'm not going to disagree. And
against the Saints team that could belong in the bottom tier once we get there. It's pretty bad in New Orleans. Yeah,
the Saints.
Yeah, I do too. They have an argument
down there yet, but with no weapons. With no weapons this past week, they play Seattle this week. Big game for them. Big game.
All right, let's move on to
big game for the pod division winner parlay, because the Saints is really and truly the only one where we're like, that's the only one that kind of, because the Colts are only like a game out of first. The Saints are technically only a game out of first, and then we have the Eagles, the Vikings, the Bills, and one more.
Eagles, Vikings, Bills.
I know we didn't touch the AFC North.
Yep.
Rams. The Rams are tied for first.
Yeah,
I don't like the direction they're heading, but it's.
About to say I don't know how I feel about that one either. But
they get the Panthers this week.
Let's move on to the next tier of teams that we got here, and looking at the list, I'd probably put. Okay, I'm gonna move the Chargers up.
The Falcons. The Falcons need to be in tier 2.
I agree. Yes. So let's bump them up.
They're 5 points away from being undefeated.
They've been playing spectacular football. I made a strong argument for the Falcons last week, and they just further proved it, beating the Browns.
I think. I know Cordell got hurt, but like I think that they are going to be that team that is going to make some noise and sneak in as the 6th or 7th seed in the NFC.
With how effective that offensive line is, like with their run game, Tyler Algier, he was a dog in college. Like, he was a dog.
But like Mariota looks good. Like he looks
solid. For what they're depending on him to do.
No complaints.
He looks good.
There were talks of Desmond Ridder, hopping in and maybe taking that job from him, and that's been completely silent.
For sure.
Let me hear your argument, Jaden.
For them to be in tier 2, I think that's just with the roster talent that they have. I can't.
I'm putting them easily in front of the Browns and easily in front of the Lions.
I do think that they do.
I would put it.
Well, I'm moving the Lions down pretty far in mine as well, but the Falcons, I don't trust what they're doing. I do think that they are somewhat of a good matchup for Tampa Bay because the way that they run the ball can kind of get Devin White leaning and could maybe create some big plays because Devin White does have a problem with diagnosing the run game. But I don't know. I don't trust a team because eventually there's going to be a team that forces Mariota to throw the ball consistently. I think Mariota completed like 7 passes on Sunday. But
I mean, I would put them in front of the Broncos.
Yeah, I would put them in front of the Broncos. Now, where do we want to put the Broncos, by the way? Like, do they move down to that 3rd tier now? After losing to the only 0-3 team in football? I'll probably put them at the bottom of tier 2 for now. I'll put them ahead of the Browns, but yeah, it's close, man. It's close, but I would put the Falcons in front of the Broncos for sure. Where do we want to drop the Broncos to tier 3, or is that too?
I think the Falcons should be on the back at like the very last spot of tier 2.
Okay, so behind the Broncos, I'm definitely putting them in front of the Browns.
No, I think the Broncos should be in tier 3, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think that they should too. I know that Jaden's a lover of the Broncos because he argued. I mean, lover's a strong word. You did argue pretty hard for them to stay in that 2nd tier last week. So, Jaden, do you have your thoughts changed on that at all?
I have them at 15. They've got some problems.
They're not at 15.
They really do.
It's lower than that.
But
I would take the Falcons over the Broncos right now.
Me too.
I can't take the Falcons and Mariota and what they're doing passing the ball right. Like Russell Wilson hasn't looked good, but
the Falcons don't need to pass the ball.
Not good passing the ball.
That's so far.
Somebody's going to make them pass the ball.
That offensive line is really fucking good.
The Rams, Saints,
if they can keep creating holes for the run game like that,
it's got some underrated pieces in it. But they played Seattle and Cleveland surprisingly their defense has been really not good this year. Like it's not been as good as
this week
you would have expected it to be.
This week they didn't have Garrett or Clowney.
And that's part of the thing. Like that's why I don't feel good about Atlanta. Like they beat the Browns without Myles Garrett. They beat the Seahawks, whose defense is 2nd worst in the league to Detroit.
Seahawks beat the Broncos
in week 1.
Yeah, but
both games in Seattle. I know it was an emotional game.
Yeah, but
I get that.
That should be no excuse. Russell should go out there in front of his old fans who gave him so much shit before the game, booed him basically off the field, and he didn't do anything. So
they did fumble it twice at the
without Javonte. Now without basically a threat of a run game, I'm putting the Falcons above. Boom, there it is, 2 out of 3. Okay,
but I think the Broncos. I still think the Broncos should be in tier 3, and I think the Browns should be in tier 3, and I think the Cowboys.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
100%. I think the Cowboys.
And I think that the Cardinals need to be moved up.
And this is. I agree with that as well.
No.
Here's my question.
Barely inched out a win against the Panthers.
Here's my question with the Cowboys. Do you guys actually think there's a quarterback controversy?
Yes, absolutely. Because you laughed at me in the chat. That was really funny. When you said hot take time, I said it when he started his first game. I was like, Cooper Rush throws a better ball than Dak. Like, from what I've seen. And you laughed. And I was like, okay.
Cooper Rush is 4-0 as a starter and 4-0 against
the only Dallas Cowboys quarterback in history to start his career 4-0. So, I think there is legitimate quarterback controversy.
I think that when Dak comes back and he's healthy, I think Dak gets the job. I don't think that's. I think that it's going to happen. I don't think that there's and you can sit here and say that it might not, but money rules everything. They're not paying Dak this much money to be a backup quarterback, no matter how good Cooper Rush might be.
Yeah,
and he comes back and he's healthy.
It is the Cowboys,
but it is a conversation. It is a conversation. It is a conversation, at least, which is a great thing for the Cowboys and a great thing for Jerry Jones, that this is actually a conversation, because it means that the Cowboys are doing pretty damn well with Cooper Rush.
Like Mike McCarthy
I mean, we thought their season was over after week 1.
I mean, Mike McCarthy might be out of town if he doesn't make the right. Like, if Dak comes back and chokes it, like in 2 games, the leash is so short because McCarthy's leash is short. So, like, I think that Cooper Rush goes in a lot sooner than everybody thinks. I mean, what we saw from Dak in week 1 before he had the injury sucked. It was fucking terrible. Like, and Cooper Rush in the games that he plays, it looked 10 times better.
I like the Cowboys ahead of both the Falcons and Broncos.
I can get with that.
I'd almost put them ahead of the Chargers.
No. See, I was going to move up the Chargers.
If the Cowboys
go ahead.
If the Cowboys beat the Rams this week, they're going into the
100%,
top tier.
100%. Because the roster outside of the quarterback position is built different. Jaden hates it. So, Jaden, give me your take.
I'm just still I cannot believe that we have the Falcons in tier 2. I've been sitting here.
The football they've played has been fantastic so far, man.
Who from tier 3?
Fantastic.
Who from tier 3 are you putting above them?
The Cardinals, who I don't want to put in tier 2, but I'd have Cleveland in front of Atlanta.
They just beat them, bro.
They just beat them.
That doesn't
mean anything.
I mean, there are teams that beat other teams on a week-to-week basis. A team can beat any team in the NFL, but that doesn't mean that they're the better team in any given week. The Steelers beat the Bengals week 1. Are we ready to? Did we move the Steelers?
Those are very two evenly matched teams, pal. Close. Like the Falcons and the Browns are right next to each other.
We have 4 weeks of.
They had no Myles Garrett. He's the best player on their team.
That defense felt pretty fucking good.
They should still be able to beat the Falcons, though.
Okay. All right. Well, do we? I'll move the Falcons behind the Broncos just to appease, but they're definitely going to stay in tier 2, no question. So, all right.
So what? Do you have the Browns or the Cardinals?
I had the Browns in tier 2 at 16. And the Cardinals is 17.
Where did you have the Falcons?
Before 25.
Holy fuck.
Okay, without looking at depth charts, I want one of you. You know what? I want Kane.
You know what? I'm not looking up the depth chart.
Name 5
I'm looking at the results for Atlanta so far because I know you're working usually when the football games are played on Sundays, but if you've watched any of the Falcon games so far this year, they've actually played really good football.
How many Falcon games?
I watch Red Zone and they have Falcon games on at different times and also have Sunday tickets, so I could throw it on whenever I want. And I have.
So you've been catching the Falcons?
Because of fantasy purposes, yes. I have Kyle Pitts invested in a couple other different leagues, which kind of sucks. But that's why I was so adamant against the Kyle Pitts trade earlier in the chat. But, okay, so far, they won against the Browns this week. They won against the Seahawks, who beat the Broncos.
They've lost.
Right? At the Seahawks. Who the Broncos could not beat the Seahawks at the Seahawks. And they put up 27 points against them when... The Broncos put up what? 12, 10, 16.
16.
Yeah.
17, 16
so Falcons put up 27 in that game. And then at the Rams' house, and I know we have a lot of concerns about the Rams now, but at the Rams' house in week 2, they lost by 4 points, 27-31. And then they lost by 1 point last-second field goal in week 1 to the Saints. So tell me that's not a good football team.
They were up 16.
Tell me that's not a good football team.
Name 5 players on their.
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fucking rat's ass, dude. What's happening on the field right now is that they are playing good football.
Okay. Keep them there. Keep them there. I guarantee you this is the highest they'll be all year.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm with it. This is a team in the NFC in a division that's not playing too great right now. I mean, the Bucs are not the Bucs. The Saints fucking suck. I think there's a solid. I think the Falcons might win the division.
Here's. To Jaden's argument, here's their next 3 opponents. At Tampa, home against San Fran, at the Bengals. If they even go 1-2 in that, it's still a conversation for them to be where.
See, this is what I'm saying. If you sit here and say that they're a tier 2 team and you're praying that they get one win against those 3 teams, you're hoping that they get one win.
Yes, because let's look at the Cardinals schedule. The Cardinals, oh my God, of course I type in Cardinals in St. Louis.
At the Bucks, and then you play the 49ers at home, and then you go to the Cincy. So going to Cincy and Tampa Bay, 2 of the toughest places to play. I mean,
2 tier 1 teams.
So they should be able to go 1 and 2 and be perfectly fine. And not move an inch in these power rankings.
They play 3 tier 1 teams their next 3 weeks. We're gonna find out a lot about the Falcons.
Yeah, we will. We will. All right, let's end the Falcons debate. So we got tier 3 we're moving on to, and after their first win, I think the Raiders belong in front of the Giants, the Titans. Well, the Titans is close. I'll put them behind the Titans. I'll put them in front of the Browns.
I think the Cardinals
in front of the Colts.
I think the Browns should be right behind. I think the Browns should be right behind the Cardinals. The Colts are dog shit, dude. Colts are shit.
So
Browns. It should be Cardinals, Browns, Titans, and then probably the Raiders. What would you think, Jaden?
Okay, so my tier 3 currently is Cardinals, Browns, Titans, Raiders, Colts, Lions, Saints, Pats.
Repeat again.
Cardinals, Browns, Titans, Raiders, Colts, Lions, Saints, Pats. Mitchell just texted me. How are we allowed to have a graphic with the Falcons in fucking tier 2?
Because
we're not degenerates. Because we have some brain cells.
The Bears are 2-2. We have the Bears at 31.
Look at who they played so far.
Good.
The
Bears won in a monsoon, and they beat the Texans.
And
on a Roquan Smith interception, that was just a terrible mistake by Davis Mills.
And then they played the Giants, who basically had that game in hand the whole time.
You can't even sit there and compare the Bears and the Falcons.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, they're not, but when you say that they're 2-2, like that is not.
It's not the record. We listed off the fucking games and the results and who they played. It's not just the record.
And I understand. I understand your comment about who's on their depth chart and who's on paper. That's all great.
Yes, big facts.
And if they're winning the games with what they have,
we said this about the Titans last year.
Okay, if they had beaten the Saints in the 3-1, what's our conversation then?
Sure. But they didn't.
You're right. They didn't. They lost by 1. You are correct on that.
And without healthy Jameis.
I still think out of the 2-2 teams that are there, between them, the Cardinals, the Titans, and the Browns, I think that they're the best team out of that group of 4.
Right now, as it stands. You can't just put name value on these teams and be like, oh, because of all the shit that we put on them in the preseason, they belong above. Like, we are 4 weeks into the season. We know what's like.
Roster talent puts a ceiling on a team. Like, what you have on your roster is.
The Falcons also have a very young roster who really don't have defined names yet. Exactly. So, like, they're going to become stars.
That's my point.
Like, they're emerging stars.
Their roster isn't.
Like an AJ Terrell?
AJ Terrell is a superstar. Yeah, go. Okay, Kane, go ahead. Let's list some emerging names, buddy.
I know that they are a very young defense. How about all right?
Taquan Graham, emerging star. Jalen Hawkins.
Okay, congratulations. You spent the time to memorize the Atlanta Falcons defense. Congratulations.
That's about all that I know.
You are a football man. Good job.
Thank
also,
you.
Mitch's guy, what's his name that's there? The corner. They used to play on the Chargers.
Yeah.
Casey Hayward,
yeah. That's another big
young emerging star at 32 years old.
Okay. Besides him, though, they have two solid cornerbacks. Their linebackers are pretty solid as well. I mean, I think Lorenzo Carter is going to turn into a stud, and I think that Rashaan Evans is already a stud.
He's a declining stud.
All right, you just fucking hate the Falcons.
I'm done talking about Atlanta.
Why do we have you on these fucking power rankings? You want to disagree with everything that me and Tyler are putting up here, bro. And you're literally only on for the power ranking segment.
Can we just name this? Can we just name this episode? Can we name this episode the Atlanta Falcons debate? Can we just name it that? And
I'm putting a poll.
Yeah.
I'm putting a poll.
Do it.
Oh, do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's dive into the rest of these.
Do you guys think the Browns ahead of the Titans?
No. I've heard you guys both say that the Browns are better than the Titans. Now that Derrick Henry, now that we can prove that the Titans can score points, and once they get up at least 7 points, Derrick Henry's going to run, and that's effective. We've seen it now for 2 weeks. So I think that we can put the Titans in front of the Browns. I don't think the Browns look like the Browns this year, man. I mean, obviously, you have Jacoby Biscuit at quarterback, so that's not the best. But this is I mentioned this last week. If you really thought that Baker Mayfield was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, then Jacoby should have been leading this team to 12 wins in a playoff. And it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. So the Browns are definitely certifiably behind Arizona and Tennessee for me. But I want to hear the case from you guys.
I think that they still have one of, if not the best, running back tandem in the league. I still think that their defense is pretty solid. I mean, it's not great. I mean, I think it was hyped up to be this top 5, top 7 defense, and I don't think it's that, but I still think it's top 15. I just worry now with Treylon Burks getting injured. I mean, all that's there is Robert Woods. I mean, who the hell else is there to throw to? I understand Derrick Henry's there, but I wonder what this offense of Tennessee is going to look like with literally no wide receivers. I mean, are you Kyle Phillips? Is that who? Nick Westbrook-Ikina? Is that who you're going to depend on to create an offense? The defense is meh. I mean, it's solid. They've got some names, but I'm not sold on their defense. I think that they're not a top 15 defense. So I think the Browns are better, but slightly.
Also, something
that I could totally hear an argument. I could totally.
Vrabel won Coach of the Year last year. That's all I'll say. Now I'm done. Jaden, go ahead.
I could totally.
Didn't Stefanski win the year before?
Yeah, I did. You did.
Touche.
I
could totally see an argument for Tennessee over Cleveland. Really, either or here. You're looking at two teams that are dominated by the run game, or are dominant with the run game. Just kind of who has the hot hand. Jacoby Brissett looked really good week 3, so we had them in front. Didn't look so good last week. Now they're probably going to be behind.
All right, the Saints.
Do we think the Cardinals? Do we think the Cardinals are ahead of both of those teams?
In my opinion, the Titans are number 1. I really, after watching the Cardinals for multiple weeks now, Jaden, I'm on the bus. They fucking suck. I'm on the bus. I'm totally arms in, legs in the bandwagon. Yeah. The Cardinals stink. So I think the Titans are better than the Cardinals personally. But I know that you guys both have the Cardinals ahead of the Titans.
You guys want to know an interesting stat about the Cardinals real quick?
Move them back, actually.
The Cardinals have not scored 1 point in the first quarter. They're being outscored 66 to 16 in the first half this year.
That is terrible. Terrible. You're not going to win a lot of football games doing that. I mean, the statistics from teams that score first. I mean, it's not as big. But
they were down 10-0 to the Panthers, and then we know that they were down 10-0 to the Panthers, and then we know what they were down to the Raiders. What was it, 16 or something, 20, something like that? It was. I mean, so yeah. I mean, you keep facing yourself with these deficits, it's not going to end very well.
I'm going to put the Titans in front of the Cards, and is there an argument for the Browns in front of the Cards?
I like the Browns in front of the Cardinals. What do you think, Jaden?
Yeah, I'm with that as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sweet. Good shit, boys. All right. It's nice to have some agreements after that Atlanta conversation. My blood's still boiling from that shit. But okay. The Raiders had their first win. I do feel like they move in front of the Saints. In my opinion.
I would agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah, because
Saints
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That one of my big takeaways from this week is time to bench Jameis. Team looked better with Dalton. Jameis is 2. This offense can work, especially with the defense being good. This offense can succeed without the big play all the time. And that's what Jameis is. He's always the big play. He doesn't like taking the little stuff. Dalton takes the little stuff. And that's probably, if you want to win in this division, that's kind of what you got to do.
I like the Giants in front of the Saints. What do you guys think? That's close. All right, let's...
Not with Daniel Jones fan.
Let's first talk about, okay, what teams
and
in Tier
Tyrod.
4... What teams in Tier 4 need to move up? And in my opinion, I think the Jets and the Seahawks both have cases to be in Tier 3.
I think the Seahawks do, and I think the Patriots do.
What do you think, Jaden?
For me, it's just the Pats.
Okay.
And they're like 24.
Okay, the Jets, okay. We can leave them in the bottom tier because they did just beat Pittsburgh against a rookie quarterback. No shots being thrown there. But I will move. I'm cool with moving the Pats up, but the Seahawks, I think they definitely need to be in Tier 3.
The problem is, dude, they've got the second worst defense in the NFL. Like, it's rough.
Yeah, but Pete Carroll's always been a really good defensive coach, and their defense.
Here's my thing.
So why? So if their defense is still the second worst, then they're really bad.
But here's my thing is, and it's tough. But I would probably take the Seahawks over the Colts.
Yeah,
at this point.
Me too. So let's move the Colts down.
What do you feel about that, Jaden?
I've got the Colts at 21. I'm actually probably going to move them down now that I'm looking at it.
The Lions, I think, should be in Tier 4.
Then who bumps up for them?
That's the
Seahawks.
That's our argument.
I was afraid to move the Lions down as far as I did. I thought I was going to get a lot of pushback from you all. And
all right,
just like
so I don't think that they should belong right here. Obviously, I think they should belong closer to the top of Tier 4 because they did play a really close game. I mean, that was a close game against Seattle. So, and they looked good the week before.
I would put the Colts at the top of Tier 4, and then actually I would probably
Lions
at the top.
I like the Lions better than the Colts, so I'll put the Lions in front.
Yeah,
what do you think,
I did that as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
I did that as well.
And then I would put the Jets probably after the Colts.
I'm with that. And then
I'd probably take the Steelers over those 4 other teams.
This is hard,
and
man.
I might, dude, I don't know. These bottom 4 teams are such garbage.
Thanks. Tell us how you really feel.
I mean, dude, you were talking about the Carson Wentz experience and how it's been. I mean, let's be real. And this is a conversation I want to bring up because I brought it up the last time we were on here. Curtis Samuel is the number 1. He has 10 more targets than anybody else on this team. And he's doing all the stuff across the middle and all the short stuff as well, where Terry's just getting the deep bombs. And he is turned into the number 1 target for Carson Wentz.
He's the number 1 target. I'd still say Terry's the number 1, like, wide receiver. Like, he's the primo, number 1. I mean, he is the guy. Like, he matched up against Trayvon Diggs. He hasn't had over 40 yards against Trayvon Diggs in his career. So, like, I mean, I expected that performance from Terry. So,
but it's not just 1 week. He only had 1 less target.
Yeah. It's honestly, it comes down to Carson being able to get the ball easier to Curtis Samuel than it is to Terry. Like, because we're running screen passes for Curtis.
Right, but I also think that the offense is making it a point to get Curtis Samuel the ball. Like, they're lining him up in the backfield. They're doing the short throws. We're doing the over-the-middle type of throws.
Oh, yeah. He was one of the biggest free agent signings wide receiver signings when we signed him. And then he missed all last year, so people forgot about him.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years. Yeah, no, I absolutely remember that. And I just think that there's more of a comfortability and chemistry right now with those two compared to Wentz and Terry.
And even Jahan Dotson.
I think it's pretty evident.
Dotson has more
Jahan
chemistry.
Dotson looks great.
Yeah. He's caught a touchdown in every game except 1, I think, that he's played. But now he's going to be out the next few weeks.
I think he had the same amount of targets as Terry, actually, after this week. Dotson did. I would probably go Steelers.
With Pickett
Commanders.
now being the quarterback in Pittsburgh, I know Mitch was really bad to start the year. I know. But I don't think I like the Commanders better than the Steelers, but if you both think that the Steelers are better than the Commanders, I can't overrule that. So, and then
I do.
Okay, and then I know that Jaden does. So, I mean that's fair. Okay, I mean fucking sucks. But
Do we think the Panthers should be? Do we think the Texans are the worst team?
No.
Yes.
What?
I would have to say yes because they've also they lost to the Bears.
Yeah, I almost think that the Panthers are the worst team in the NFL right now. Not on paper, but I mean the Bears are 2-2 right now, and the Texans. I mean, they put up points against the Chargers, and they played some solid football.
I can see an argument for the Bears ahead of the Panthers, but I don't think I can see an argument for the. I don't think the Panthers are worse than the Texans. I think the Texans are still the worst, but I could possibly move the Bears ahead of the Panthers.
Jaden, you with that same thing on Tyler's point?
See, as dysfunctional as the Panthers are, the Bears are more dysfunctional. I know that they've got.
I think that the Bears can win games,
win or two,
like because of really low scoring matchups, and like they can win games. The Panthers, they're built to put up points, and they can't put up points. So
the Panthers' defense
is really good.
Better.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying Carolina's offense is designed to put up points, like a lot more points than the Bears' offense is, and it's not.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. But the thing is, there's a potential for the Panthers' offense to get it clicking. I know it hasn't looked good very far. It's looked terrible so far. But there's people on that offense that I have faith that maybe at some point this year it could happen. Chicago, I have no faith in anyone getting anything working ever. Like
I can agree with that. But switch the Panthers back.
But
I would put the Panthers in the Bears.
The Bears can win games solely on the run game. Like they could have Justin Fields throw the ball 5 times and still win a football game. Like we've seen it far this year. Like,
Justin Fields hit his over in yards this week. It was listed at 148, which I don't know if I've ever seen an NFL quarterback have that low of yards, and he got 179, I think. So good for Justin Fields.
Yeah, let's go, man.
I mean, he got like a fifth of his yardage total in like 2 plays.
Well, there was one play to Mooney that was like a 60 or 70 yard pass. That was like
like for the a fifth for the season, not just for the game.
Yeah, I think that the Bears. All right, fine.
I like the Panthers. Jaden makes a good point with just like the potential and how they actually have guys that can score, and the Bears just don't. I mean, you can say Montgomery, but he's hurt right now, and it's like, who the fuck else is going to score?
Last thing,
Kane, have you kept an eye on the chat at all?
I have not.
I feel like because I haven't had it up, and Mitchell said he was commenting.
Yeah,
and like you haven't said about it.
Yeah, we've got some comments. I'll go ahead and go through them right now. Jacob, as always, he says, I don't even want to say it right now because it was when we were talking about the Ravens. He was like, but go Ravens. Let's go. Appreciate you, man. Mitchell says, in what world are the Falcons tier 2? In reality, they are. Mitchell says, Saints, Cardinals, Raiders, Browns on a healthy week. Giants and Raiders all better than the Falcons. Okay. Cordero onto IR. They are going to the tank. It could, but I have faith in Tyler Algier, and I think that offensive line has been a lot. Like, Cordell's been fucking fantastic these past 2 years, but I think that line has improved so much that it has a lot to do with Cordell's success last year, so far this year, and I think it'll mean a lot for Tyler Algier's success going forward. And then he says, they might not even split.
Also, I'm going to say this. God. I'm going to also say this about the Falcons. This is the week. Kyle Pitts will score a touchdown this week. It's happening. I'm calling it. Take this recording when it happens. Kyle Pitts will score a touchdown.
Put your money where your mouth is, Tyler.
All right. Last thing.
Might have to.
Jets in front of the Colts is the only thing that I might have an argument for. What do you guys think? Is it without Jonathan Taylor now for a decent amount of time?
I think it's just going to be this week. If it's just this week, since it's a short week, I think he'll be. I don't think he'll.
And the offensive line was supposed to be the strength of the Colts, and they fucking suck. They can't give any time to
left
Matt.
tackle spot.
Yeah,
they can't figure out the left tackle.
They can't give Matt Ryan any time back there. Every time Matt Ryan's gotten hit, he has fumbled the ball. So it's not good. I'm moving the Jets for the Colts. What do you think, Tyler?
So back to that argument, like with the Panthers and Bears about one team having the offensive playmakers, and I think the Jets probably have more offensive playmakers than the Colts. And the one thing I saw this week that I think is without Jonathan Taylor, absolutely. But the one thing I saw this week that I think, unfortunately for my predictions, although Dameon Pierce has looked really good, but Breece Hall, I think has firmly solidified himself as the lead back in this backfield.
17 carries this week.
We saw it in crunch time. We saw it when the game was on the line. He was the one getting all the work. I know Michael Carter had a carry or two, I think, on that final drive, but for the most part, it was Breece Hall. So if you're incorporating him into that offense with Garrett Wilson and Elijah
and
Moore,
a healthy Zach Wilson back, yeah, exactly.
Zach Wilson's healthy now. I think that there's a lot of optimism in New York with the Jets.
For sure, I agree, and that, couldn't say it any better myself personally. So, all right, boys, we fucking with it.
Leave it up for like another half second. I gotta get everybody up here. Can't believe I'm in fucking Atlanta.
This was the Atlanta. If we have any Falcons fans that are listening to this, I hope y'all are.
Yeah, I hope.
Kane and I's comments,
exactly.
Of optimism.
Yeah, we hope. And also, I totally shit on the Bears on the Instagram this past week, and I just made an argument for them. I felt bad. I did feel a little bad.
I might have, dude. I'm gonna do that for the Falcons. I might have to put together an essay.
Okay, fair enough. Just like on the power rankings, just like disclaimer: I was not involved.
I just do like slide 1, slide 2, and then an entire it looks like a statement from a team. Like it's got our logo at the bottom, and then the other 2 slides for the power rankings.
It's terrible. But yeah, I'm with this. I like it a lot. Yeah. How about Chargers or Cowboys in front of the Chargers by any chance? No.
No. Yeah. I will say this about the Bengals. This year, the Bengals have faced Mitch Trubisky, Cooper Rush, Joe Flacco, and Tua for half, and then Bridgewater. So this week, they're going to face Lamar Jackson. So it's going to be their first legitimate
I don't even think about that. That's crazy.
It's going to be their first legitimate test at quarterback. And I'm interested to see how they're going to fare because, the big question is going to be, well, if Baltimore gets up, what are they going to do? Because we've seen them blow leads. It might be in Baltimore's best interest to go down 17-0 in this game and try and mount a comeback. Maybe that's what they're built for.
And it seems like Cincinnati finally has their offensive line problems together. They've been playing long enough that they seem to have figured it out. Yeah. So,
a couple other little tidbits. The Packers are the only team in the NFL with a winning record and negative turnover differential. Matt Stafford has 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions this year. And Trevor Lawrence is the first player this century to lose 4 fumbles in a game.
Good Lord.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize. I remember hearing he had 2.
He lost
at one point.
4. Pretty bad. I understand the conditions.
I think Kyler lost 5, but then they stat corrected him because they were bad snaps that was just bounced off his hip.
Or bounced off his helmet because he's so fucking short. I saw that. I saw it happen twice where it was it goes over his head because he's so fucking short, dude. Goddamn.
Actually, 2 last things. The Ravens have lost 5. I think it's 5 straight home games, and they've lost 7 straight 1-score games. And then the other question that I have is, who are the only 2 teams that are averaging at least 30 points a game?
Mm-hmm.
Lions and
Seahawks. Lions and Seahawks. Oh shit! You can't hear us. What do you think, Jaden? I think it's Lions, Seahawks, maybe.
I'm gonna probably say I know it's Lions. Kansas City's probably
Cowboys, maybe.
They had 41 last week, 27 in week 2.
Did you guys say the Chiefs?
No.
Chiefs are
what?
The other one.
Oh, so it was the Lions and the Chiefs. Okay.
Hey.
All right.
Let's go.
Fair enough. All right. So that just about does it for our power ranking segment. And as we are already an hour into the episode, we'll kind of briskly walk through the rest of the things that we have to cover. But we are going to say adios to Mr. Jaden Kozak because apparently he has some college shit to do because we are college students. So good luck with that, brother. Oh, give us your thoughts on Kenny Pickett's debut before you leave.
Okay, yeah. So it was like a national event. Like I went and got my dad out of the shop. I was like, he's coming. Come on. And then naturally, because NFL Plus is a humongous scam, I had to watch it on Stream East and watch it be like a minute and a half after Red Zone. But he looked okay. I mean, yeah, your first passing play is a pick. Your last passing play is a pick. I didn't get to see the second one. I still haven't seen it because I was on my way to work when that happened. I saw it on my phone and I was like, damn it.
All three of his passes that weren't completions were interceptions, fortunately.
I was about to say, the ball never hit the ground. So there is that. And that kind of covers the bad stuff. On the good side, the offense looked so much more energetic.
That's what I was going to say. There's and it's not only the offense, but it just seems like as a team as a whole, they got a whole new refound energy.
And it definitely helps that the guy that the crowd was screaming for like the last 3 weeks finally comes in. I mean, that crowd was probably outside of the
You're saying Acrisure was bumping? Acrisure was bumping for Kenny?
At least we're not bumping shit out of pipes. At least we're not bumping sewage all over fans.
Man. Nice.
But yeah, it was pretty crazy in there, so I'd imagine that helped feed into the energy. Also, George Pickens.
He's here.
Number one waiver wire this week.
7 catches for 102 yards. He looked fantastic. Kenny Pickett really seems to like him also. Pat Freiermuth. He hit Pat Freiermuth a lot. Freiermuth had 9 targets in that game, caught 7 of them. Tight end 6 in fantasy. Just saying. The line even looked better. Najee was getting more holes than he's had so far. Kenny Pickett also kind of getting active with his legs a little bit. I know that the touchdowns that he had. Yeah.
Any fake slides? Any fake slides involved or no?
No fake slides. I do think he needs to pull that out if the NFL didn't outlaw it. I can't remember if they did or not, but if they didn't.
Watch him try to pull that shit and they just fucking lay him out. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, helmet off, falls in the air. Oh my God, his jersey's ripped in half.
Head's in the air.
We're not wishing that upon Kenny Pickett, just to be clear.
But yeah, he was throwing the ball with zip. Let's the whole baby arm thing that I contributed. I said that I didn't like his arm strength coming out. The last play of the game, and I know that's like I'm gonna run and put my ass into it, but dude, that ball 70 yards in the air. Like, that ball made it to the end zone. He was sitting at our 40 when he threw the ball. So he was able to put some on it. Obviously, haven't got to see him in the elements yet, which is like the big thing with the hand size and the gloves and everything.
I just worry about...
But it could have been a lot worse.
I just worry about, and we talked about this, I just worry about the confidence with these next 4 games, with at Buffalo, Tampa, Dolphins, and the Eagles. I mean, that's an absolute gauntlet for any quarterback, especially a rookie. Those are going to be your first 4 starts in the NFL. So I do worry about that. But I think that there's definitely a newfound enthusiasm with the whole team and with the whole city with bringing him in for sure.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, he's a really confident guy. Like, he just, I think, and that's part of the reason why we brought him in, is because he just exudes swagger and confidence. Like, I saw more energy out of him specifically after he got that 4th and 1 sneak, like just a first down, than I saw from Trubisky all year. Like, he brings that energy that we just didn't have before. And that's why, yeah, I mean, obviously you're not going to find too many moments where he can show off that energy over the next 4 weeks, but I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. I think he's going to be able to handle it. I mean, this is a guy that came into Pittsburgh as like they were a terrible organization and knocked off a ranked team in the first game they played, worked his way up from not even being talked about being drafted to being a first round pick, took them to a legit bowl game. Like, I think mentally he's got it, and that's part of the reason why we drafted him.
I mean, I'm all aboard. I hope I did. I was one of the guys before the season that said Mitch was going to play a lot longer than everybody did expect, and that was the total opposite. We're going into week 5, and Kenny Pickett is now the starter. So, I mean, we'll see how it works out.
And don't be surprised if we look to move Trubisky, because while we do like to keep 3 quarterbacks, that's been with Big Ben and his health problems recently. So the whole 3 quarterback thing that we've been doing might not be as needed anymore. So if we can move Trubisky to a team that has an injured quarterback, I know that he's not ideal, but he does have a year and a half left on his deal, and if we can get a pick out of him, I think that's a win, considering in all likelihood he'll never play another snap for
Sad
Pittsburgh.
shit. All right, man. Well, we appreciate you giving your spiel, giving us a hard time on the Falcons, and good luck, my friend.
Yeah, man. You guys have a good rest of your pod. Fuck the Falcons.
All right. So, oh, nice. Let me throw the "We'll be back" screen on, and I'll get Tyler's camera set up, and then we'll be back. Welcome back in to the Blitz podcast. Yeah, we just got finished our power rankings. Jaden gave us a nice hard time on moving the Falcons up into tier 2. Gave us his Kenny Pickett spiel. But yeah, it'll be nice to run through the last couple of segments with you, brother. We got studs and duds coming up.
Absolutely,
key takeaways coming up. It'll be a good time. We've got contenders, pretenders, little coming up, so it'll be a good time. But let's hop into studs and duds for the week. And if you haven't been with us for the first couple weeks of the season, this is just listing off some of the guys that absolutely went berserk in fantasy this week, and then some of the guys that did not do so hot in fantasy.
Big time dud, Jonathan Taylor.
That's my roommate. He said big time dud, Jonathan Taylor, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely one of the guys on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I mean, some of it might be from the injury, but yeah, if I was a Jonathan Taylor owner, I got to be concerned not only for, his injury status, but also just the production status. We haven't been getting, if you drafted him number 1 overall, it's not looking good. I actually looked this up. Who do you think is the number 1 overall running back in fantasy right now?
Is it Nick Chubb?
It's Saquon Barkley.
Oh, fuck. Wow.
And he has 193 points. After week 4, previously, so this is probably dating back to like 2000, the least amount of points for number one running back in fantasy through 4 weeks was 213. So it's almost 20 points higher than what Barkley's got now. So it just shows you how depleted the running back position is to really find that top tier guy. I mean, we talked about it, that zero RB strategy is kind of looking really good right now if you utilize that in fantasy, because if you were getting guys like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire and a Kareem Hunt to go 1-2, and then you just load it up on the receivers, tight end, and quarterback, you're looking pretty good probably in fantasy. So it's going to be an interesting trend to watch. It's something that I mentioned, after week 1 with, seeing more of a timeshare with so many running backs in the league, and they're not being those, 1A type guys really and truly anymore. So that's absolutely one that I would put up there. Javonte Williams as well. I mean, once again, I know he got injured and he's out for the year now, but that's another one that really just stuck out to me as just being like, damn, like neither of those guys could get it going.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we mentioned Jonathan Taylor. I've got him on the list here in the dud section. I mean, it's really comes down to the offensive line. Like, that offensive line was supposed to be one of the best in the league coming into this year, and they're just loading the box. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, if you can't beat them in the pass, you're just going to load the box up, and I mean, it's bound to make your offensive line look bad, So, Jonathan Taylor, not feeling too great, but I mean, guys like, and this is the last thing I'll say before I hop into the rest of the duds, but like, that zero RB strategy, you're fucking right, dude. Like, if you drafted a guy like Aaron Jones, top of the 3rd, bottom of the 2nd round, like, that's a guy who's splitting work in Green Bay, and he's a top 5 fantasy back right now. Like,
yep,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's.
And then you got a guy like Dameon Pierce, who's probably, I mean, he's RB1 right now. If you have him on your team, unless you have, like you said, like a guy like Saquon or Nick Chubb or Barkley, or Aaron Jones. But yeah, I mean, he absolutely has been killing it the past couple of weeks, and I think he's turning into. And I said at the beginning of the year that he would have a better season fantasy wise than Breece Hall, and I know we just hyped up Breece Hall as coming onto the scene and him having a pretty spectacular week. But Dameon Pierce is the guy that if you waited on and got him in like 6th, 7th, 8th round, you're reaping the benefits for sure.
Oh yeah. All right, let's dive into the full list of duds we got here. Trevor Lawrence puts up 3 points. That not a lot to take away from that. I mean, that was a lot of the weather.
4 lost fumbles. I mean,
that weather was really, because I made this whole argument before the week about how Trevor Lawrence is finally here and listed off these great stats, but I don't think that can be thrown out the window because of the weather game.
I think that he plays the Texans this week. I think that he'll get back on track this week. I don't know if he's going to have a 28, 29-point game, but I could see 20 points from Trevor Lawrence this week. I mean, it's home in Jacksonville as well, so I think that that'll help out. So yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence will have a nice bounce back week against the Texans.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the other quarterbacks that disappointed this week, Matt Stafford, he put up 7 points. Is it almost time to declare Matt Stafford dead in a 10-team league? One quarterback?
The thing that just it concerns the fuck out of me if I'm a Matt Stafford owner is he literally throws the ball to one guy. Like, if Cooper Kupp's not there, I mean, Higbee was a little bit there last night, but like, who is Allen Robinson? Where is this?
He overthrows him,
I mean, this
and I think it's on purpose.
He does. I don't know what it is, but like, it is just there's no chemistry between the two guys. And we talked about, this will be the year that Allen Robinson really busts out. He's finally got a quarterback. And through 4 weeks, he has been absolutely atrocious. If you drafted him and Kyle Pitts, man, you're struggling right now in fantasy for sure. And I think I asked you guys a question. I think he's droppable. I think that if you have Allen Robinson and you're thinking about dropping him, I think you probably could.
I mean, he was the number 2 option going into the year. So it's like, I mean, I think it's pretty easy.
And we saw what number 2 options did with OBJ and Bobby Trees, Robert Woods. We saw what those guys were doing in that offense, and he hasn't done a lick. I think he's got 5 catches.
I think Skoranek and Tyler Higbee are better options in the Rams offense for fantasy. And I wouldn't pick either of those guys up, but I think that they're both better than Allen Robinson right now. So
I could see Van Jefferson having an impact once he comes back.
For sure. I was looking to add him on waivers today, but I passed up.
Yeah, but he suffered a setback last week, so he's going to be probably on the injury list again for the next 2 to 3 weeks, probably at least. I don't know how much longer after that. But I would say at least the next 2 to 3 weeks, he's probably going to be.
And I mean, we've talked about how Matt Stafford. I mean, he obviously put up the dud, but how this whole Rams offense has looked so bad. And Van Jefferson has been the guy that opens up the offense for them, and they don't.
Yeah, and it's the offensive line. The dude's got no time back there.
Yeah, he's got to move around. All right, and then Carson Wentz, he put up 9 points. We'll talk more about Carson Wentz experience later. Derek Carr, 12 points. I mean, that's not necessarily a dud, but I mean, if you group it in together with all of his performance so far this year, Derek Carr is a dud. I mean, I still have faith. I still have faith in Derek Carr.
I don't think that he's an MVP type quarterback. I don't. I think that he's a solid top 20, maybe top 15. I think he's flirting on that 15, 16, 17 range. Because you'll have your weeks where he'll put up 25, but I don't think you're going to get like a 35-point week from Derek Carr. I just don't see it.
Top 20? Like, I'd put a guy like Carson Wentz up there. I think Derek Carr is a top 15 lock.
I don't know.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Okay. Josh Allen.
All right. Mahomes.
Okay. Mahomes, Josh Allen. That's 2. And then
Lamar.
Okay. Herbert. Burrow.
Herbert, 4.
Burrow, 5.
Burrow. When healthy, Tua.
Okay. Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. When healthy, Dak.
No, I'm not doing that.
Okay. We'll stick with Tom Brady.
Aaron Rodgers. So that's 7.
Rodgers. That's 8.
Did you include Dak?
Not including Dak.
Okay.
It's 8.
8. Okay.
No, I didn't. I'm at 8. I would include.
See, man? See? Where are we? Like, Russell, I probably would take Derek Carr over Russell right now. It's close.
Probably.
It's close.
I would agree with that.
And then
I'd probably still put Stafford ahead of him.
Okay. Like, that's a matter of preference, but okay.
I mean, I put Kirk Cousins ahead of him.
I'm with that. Okay, so that's 10 guys right there.
10. Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
It's 11.
I think the buck stops there.
I mean, you could fucking make the conversation for Geno Smith and Jared Goff right now.
Excuse me?
Look what they're doing.
I know. But
Look
like Derek Carr, historically. I mean, I know historically that we were getting into an argument about that earlier, but when it comes to fantasy and it comes to quarterbacks, I mean, it's definitely applicable. You know.
Okay. All right. So you're putting in about that 12-13 range. All right.
And then depending, like, I think he can be better than Tua, can be better than Jalen Hurts, can be better than Matt Stafford, can be better than Kirk Cousins. So, like, that's top. Besides Mahomes, yeah.
That's top
7 or 8. So, all right. Good conversation.
I don't see it, but hey, you know what? If you're going to stand by it. I'll let you have that one.
I'll stand by it because now I have more confidence in Derek Carr going forward, especially after seeing that performance from Josh Jacobs. Because now that they have a running game and everybody's like, oh, Josh McDaniels, the passing game wizard who's going to put this fantastic offense together. Like, you can't not have a run game. Like, so now that Josh Jacobs actually contributing and not taking 30 carries in the Hall of Fame game, yeah, I like that. So it's a good sign of things to come.
Yeah,
for the Raiders.
You know, that's a guy that, once again, if you went 0 RB strategy and you took him in like the 3rd or 4th round, once again, reaping the benefits. I mean, it's a guy that everybody every year just writes off. Josh Jacobs isn't going to be good. Josh Jacobs isn't going to be good. And he just continues to produce. Yeah. Every single week he continues to
Last
produce.
year it was kind of on and off for Josh Jacobs, but this year, I mean, he
battled injuries.
Yeah, and that was a turf toe. That was something hard to come back from. As we go down the list, we move on to the running backs. James Robinson. So James Robinson scored 2 points. Travis Etienne scored 3 points. What are we thinking about this Jack's backfield? I mean, I think James Robinson is the guy I prefer going forward.
As a Travis Etienne owner in about 2, 3, maybe 4 of my leagues, I'm really hoping that this is the week that Travis Etienne turns it around. They play the Texans. They're giving up the most fantasy points to running backs. If there's going to be a week where Travis Etienne cements himself as a viable flex, maybe RB2 option, this is the week. James Robinson had his fumble issues last week. And I still think James Robinson is a very good running back, but I'm gonna keep sticking by Travis Etienne. I mean, eventually it's got to work out. Eventually, one of these. He's too good. He's so explosive. He has the looks in the red zone too. Eventually, he's gonna break through.
But James Robinson is so bursted onto the scene as the 7th round running back and was a top 3. I think he finished top 2 in fantasy his rookie year, and then he puts up a solid year last year. Despite all expectations. And, I mean, we keep just wanting to put this motherfucker away because he was a 7th round pick. But, I mean, from what I've seen so far, Travis Etienne is not an effect.
I think it was more so the injury.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I do feel like there has not been a belief in James Robinson just because of the late round pick. Like, Travis Etienne, he's a 1st round pick.
Right, and he was out all last year, and people were hyping it up. Oh, he's going to be back with his college quarterback. The hype has been there around Etienne. The hype has not been there for Robinson, and he's just slowly but surely still done better than
my
Etienne.
biggest hope for Travis Etienne going forward in the season, and what I think his ceiling is that he splits work with James Robinson, and he gets the majority of the passing work. And he can be a flex option if that's the case, but he's not going to be the RB1, in my opinion.
True.
All right, let's move down the list. We already mentioned Jonathan Taylor scoring 2 points. He's going to be out the next couple of weeks. That sucks. Greg Dortch, super hot ad in fantasy over these past few weeks. Well, put up a solid 2 points, so that's a dud.
Yeah. I think the Greg Dortch experiment's probably all but over. I know Hollywood's still there, and he's getting the ball.
Rondell Moore got looks now that he's back.
Rondell coming back from injury definitely hurt Greg Dortch, and before you know it, Hopkins will be back. So once those 3 guys are back and healthy, I think Dortch is pretty much just going to be off the radar. But good story, first couple of weeks for sure.
And also, Kyler seemed to get some chemistry with Zach Ertz on Sunday, which was good to see. So I mean, if Ertz, Rondell Moore, Hollywood, and then you get D-Hop back, I mean, this offense could be as dangerous as I claim they were before the season started.
Number 2 offense.
Yeah. James Conner has been dog shit this year. All right, as we move down the list, Amari Cooper scores 2 points. I'm not too concerned. He still is the number 1 wide receiver, clearly, in Cleveland. And Jacoby can throw the ball. He can make – Amari's performed spectacular so far this year. Gabe Davis puts up another stinker of a performance at 3 points. Pretty sure I saw today that he has the 4th least targets per route run in the league right now. Which is not good. I do think this is a lot of his ankle because he was a game time decision for both these games.
Well, and the elements this past week. I mean, you got to take that into consideration for sure.
Like, there's people trying to say that Isaiah McKenzie is going to be the number 2, and and
that's because Crowder is out now, and he's going to jump into that slot guy on 85 to 90% of the snaps. Probably.
I mean, he's going to be. I have Isaiah McKenzie in like 5 of my 6 leagues off the waivers. I'm a huge fan. He was there was so much preseason hype for him coming in, and it was like, is it bullshit or not bullshit? And it seems to be not bullshit. So, but Gabe Davis, no, I still have faith. Like, I mean, this is such an electric fucking offense.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. But I think him and another guy, I don't know if you have him on the list, Devontae Smith. Those 2 guys, in my opinion, are the exact definition of boom or bust. Like, you're going to get your big weeks out of them, but then you're also going to have your weeks of 2 or 3 points, and that's what we're
classic seeing. Tyler Lockett, But yeah, Gabe Davis puts up 3 points. We already mentioned Allen Robinson putting up a stinker. Terry McLaurin, we've talked about him. He got 4 points. I'd still think he's the wide receiver 1, and I still do think he's the wide receiver to roster in fantasy. Curtis is a dog, and he's also a starting wide receiver in fantasy right now. But season long, I'm still taking Terry. Like, I mean, eventually the focus is going to shift towards Samuel a little more, and then it'll shift off Terry, and then, I mean, Terry's just so good, man. Also, I have his fucking jersey, so.
We'll see. I mean, it's just like one of those things where so far, I mean, Carson Wentz has definitely had more of a chemistry with one guy over the other, and that guy's Curtis Samuel. And the way they're incorporating him in the backfield, like I said, they're making a point to get him the ball, kind of like San Fran's doing with Debo. Maybe not to the same extent, but they're making it a priority.
He's built just like Debo. Like, I mean, so.
Yep.
Drake London puts up a stinker of 4 points. Kyle Pitts also kind of stunk this week. The Falcons, is there any wide receivers or receiving options to roster in Atlanta besides Kyle Pitts? And what are you doing with Kyle Pitts right now?
Drake London, I would absolutely have him on my roster. I would probably be starting him every week.
Really?
As a wide receiver 3 flex option. Yeah, I think that Drake London's absolutely. I think he's burst on the scene, and I don't think he's going anywhere. He's such a physical presence that I don't. You have to get that guy the ball. Same thing with Kyle Pitts. I like I said, this is the week Kyle Pitts will score a touchdown on American soil for the first time this week against the Bucs. Outside of those two, as far as receivers, what are you going to get? Zacchaeus? No. Those are the two main guys in the Falcons offense that are still going to be the focal point.
And I do overall agree with you with Drake London. I'm really touch and go about rookie wide receivers, unless his name is Jamar Chase. But yeah, I he's performed spectacular so far this year. Devontae Smith, we already mentioned him. He puts up 5 points. Definition of boom or bust. He had a week like this 2 weeks ago, and then he went off, and now he's back to 5.
And then he had 0 points. He had 0 points week 1 against the Lions.
And then everybody's like, "Oh, Devontae Smith's not going to do shit this year." Yada yada yada. But Jalen Waddle, I think this is an interesting discussion, man. 6 points, and I'm scared. I just traded for Jalen Waddle in the Duck League, and I'm scared. Tua didn't seem to, or not Tua, Teddy Bridgewater, if he plays a significant amount of time over Tua, which it's looking like that's going to be the case, he didn't seem to look for Jalen Waddle very much.
Well, I don't think any of the wide receivers really had Tyreek had his moments.
Tyreek had
there were some
over 100 yards.
I think that both wide receivers are taking a hit, though. I don't think Waddle is just the only one. I think Tyreek's also going to probably be a wide receiver 2 on most teams. I don't know if he's going to maintain that wide receiver 1 mark where he's been so far this year, just because of the dip at quarterback. And I think they're going to be more run heavy. I think you're going to see a lot more of Chase Edmonds moving forward and Raheem Mostert. I
think that Tyreek Hill is still a number 1 option because Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. He's going to get open for any quarterback, in my opinion. And I think
he's still the number 1 option.
I think he's still a number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. I still think. Yeah, okay. And I think Waddle is, right now after what we saw, borderline wide receiver 2 material. Possibly. That's what we could be looking at right here. And it's...
Yeah, I think he drops down to that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 ranking, and I'm still sticking by it. I think that Tyreek drops down to that wide receiver 1 maybe.
Let me look up.
And then wide receiver 2.
Let me find what he did in Thursday night's game, because I'm pretty sure.
Tyreek had a really good game, but
yeah, 10 catches, 160 yards.
I wonder how that's. Yeah, but how much of that was after Tua? I don't know, and I don't really feel like looking up those statistics right now. But I still think both of these guys' fantasy values are taking a hit.
Overall, they are. But.
I think the one person that could benefit in the passing game is Gesicki. I think Gesicki could eventually work his way up into that tight end 1 category over the next couple of weeks.
Right now, tight end is such a crapshoot. When the rankings come out for you can try to say so and so's tight end 5, tight end 4 right now. It's all those. It's Andrews, Kelsey, and then there's a 1.5 difference between the rest of the tight ends.
Kittle will probably eventually move into that category. I still like Zach Ertz. We're talking about the target share that he got this past week as well. But outside of those 4, it's it's slim pick. Kyle Pitts has had a down year so far.
Goddard's been solid.
Goddard's been solid. I think Schultz will eventually, once he gets fully back. I know he was back this week, but I don't think he was at full health whatsoever. So I think he could end up getting into that category. But yeah, it's tough sledding for sure when it comes to tight ends.
Yeah. Last guy that we got on the duds list, Michael Pittman puts up 6 points. I managed to trade him to Jaden just this past week because I kind of sort of saw this coming. I don't think that Michael.
Yeah, this is I don't know if it's necessarily I'm not.
No, absolutely not. As much as it is absolutely not. I totally agree.
I think we've seen the last of of a good Matt Ryan. I can comfortably say that. And I think that Michael Pittman, unfortunately, is going to reap the negative benefits from that.
And with the stack boxes that they're getting, they're probably most of the time, and also with the very little threat in the pass game that they do have, I mean, teams pretty quickly are going to get to double teaming Michael Pittman, and then you're throwing it to Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell.
Well, it's the tight ends.
Mo Alley Cox, Jelani Woods.
They're running like 4 tight ends out every single game, it seems like. And any one of those tight ends is getting a big catch or a touchdown every single week, it seems like.
Michael Pittman is obviously the clear number 1 in Indy, but going forward in the season, I don't. So.
And this week he's got Thursday Night Football against Patrick Surtain.
Jeez.
That's not a good matchup.
I mean, Devontae managed to put up decent stat line, but oh my god, if you were watching that game, Surtain was locking him the fuck up.
He was all over him.
Like, oof.
I
haven't seen a corner do that to Devontae Adams in my life. Like,
yeah, it's been a while since I've seen anything like that. No, the Broncos did lose Randy Gregory, so that's going to be something interesting to watch, to see what kind of double teams Bradley Chubb's going to face. But yeah, Pat Surtain is
him.
Cornerback 1 right now in my mind. He's a top 5 corner, maybe even the best corner in the league right now.
It's definitely not Jalen Ramsey. Did you see what he did last night, dude? Did you see the Debo interview?
He did not look good.
He was like, he was like, that reporter asked him, like, did you know that it was Jalen Ramsey, like, one-on-one with you downfield? And he was like, yeah, like, he started backpedaling. I don't know what was going on. And he was like, I just blew past him. Like, very casually. Like, oh, man. That's Jalen Ramsey's dad.
Jalen Ramsey's had a little bit of a tough he's had a tough start to the year.
And a lot of it's because he's Jalen Ramsey, but, All right.
The expectations.
Let's move on to the studs. And I start with Jared Goff putting up 34 points this week. I do think that Jared Goff is a viable top. If you're in an 8-team league, 10-team league, I do think that he's a viable starting quarterback.
Yeah, depending on who your quarterback is. If you have Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, Herbert, I would probably start all 4 of those guys over him. You get into the conversation with Brady and Burrow, then, that's the conversation that you're going to have is possibly starting him. And I'm sure another guy that you have on your studs is Geno Smith.
Next guy up.
Because those 2 guys, those 2 guys were the top 2 quarterbacks this past week. Now, both defenses are absolutely – they just don't look good. I know we were talking about hyping up Jeff Okudah and everything earlier in the year, but, that Seahawks – that Lions run defense is, Rashad Penny, I'm sure we have him too. He ran all over that Lions defense. And really and truly, you can take so many guys from this game as your studs of the week. If you had anybody in this game, whether it's DK, who I know went out on the cart to take a piss break, whether it's maybe Will Dissly, whether it's Rashad Penny, Josh Reynolds, Hawkinson, the list goes on and on as to guys that just absolutely performed this week.
Hawkinson put up 41 fucking points this week. If you were looking for that breakout game out of TJ Hawkinson, this was it.
And maybe he turns into that tight end.
He could.
Maybe
just after that week. That week could carry him for the rest of the year and hold him at tight end 3. Like, he could put up 10, right around 8 points a game for the rest of the year, and he's probably tight end 3 because of that game. So, I haven't seen a...
Yeah, no.
Besides Travis Kelce,
I was going to say,
seen it before. That's insane.
Yeah, I was going to. I don't even think Mark Andrews has had a big game like that. But yeah, if you're a Hawkinson owner, be realistic. Don't expect this every week. It's not going to happen every single week. This week they're going against the Patriots in New England, a much better defense. So I'm not anticipating him having a.
If you could get a Pitts for a Hawkinson and another piece, would you do it?
Pitts and another piece for Hawkinson?
Hawkinson and
Pitts for Hawkinson, another piece. Probably not.
Okay.
I probably hold on. Hawkinson's
hold on to Hawkinson. Done it. He showed it so far. Kyle Pitts is not. So.
And to think about this, man, when the Lions get healthy, you're going to have playmakers. That line's incredible. I've talked enough about that line, but you're going to have Hawkinson, you're going to have Swift, you're going to have Amon-Ra, and you're going to have possibly Jamison Williams. that is a star-studded list of guys that are just absolute freaks. So, and Jamal Williams, who we didn't even mention, who was, I'm sure, a stud this week as well. They're absolutely loaded. And we talked how bad Jared Goff is, but like maybe they don't need a quarterback. Maybe Jared Goff has found something here with Dan Campbell.
I mean, Jared Goff, he is a quarterback. I mean, he has played at a very high level in the past. Like, he's gotten this team to a Super Bowl before. He's been, I think I saw on PFT today that he's been in the 3 highest scoring games in NFL history. Like, that's...
Yeah, because I remember the one in Mexico with the Rams and the Chiefs, like the week before Thanksgiving. That was like a 50-something to 40-something game. And I think there was another game when he was with the Rams that was also a crazy high-scoring game as well. Some of it, I think, does have to do with, Jaden mentioned him earlier, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. And I think he's going to be the number, and I agree. I think he's going to be a top 3 name when it comes to new coaches after this year. Maybe he takes on in Carolina. Maybe he takes on in Denver, because I'm not sold on Nathaniel Hackett, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I think that he could end up, I think that he's, I don't want to say a shoe-in to get a head coaching job, but he's right at the top.
For sure. And such a young coaching staff over there in Detroit. I was looking the other day, JT Barrett's an offensive assistant over there. Like,
yeah, I mean, Ben Johnson's 36.
Yeah. All their guys, all their entire coaching staff is former players, which I think is awesome. And they highlighted that a lot on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I mentioned earlier Josh Jacobs had a monster week, 35 points. Austin Eckler, he had his breakout week this week. We've been waiting for that.
He has risen. He has risen. We've talking about the rushing touchdowns, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns this week. So good on Austin Eckler. And if you're an Austin Eckler owner, you can breathe a big sigh of relief because you finally got a big game from your first round.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert did look really good passing. I was concerned that the Ribs were going to give him a little problem going on for the rest of the year, but I mean, he threw for over 300 yards against Houston. I didn't watch a whole ton of the game. He did seem to.
Mike Williams
looked really good. But this Chargers offense has sputtered at times, so I feel like we will see a lot of more receiving work going forward with Austin Eckler, because that has worked so well in the past. But yeah, I mean, if you're an Austin Eckler owner, you got to feel sigh relief after that.
A tight end, Gerald Everett, man. Gerald Everett has really been performing to a level that you can absolutely, he's a viable fantasy starter. And yeah, I would put him in that top 8 tight end category.
Yeah, I mean, he scored 17 points this week, I believe.
Yeah, I know he had a touchdown.
I mean, the tight end position is so slim, So Miles Sanders, he put up 30 points this week. Surprising from him. I'm not taking too much stock in that, honestly. Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, I feel like those guys could have 30 points.
Well, and Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts takes a lot of those carries as well. I don't think that Miles Sanders is going to be in that RB1 conversation when the season's done. I think he might be a flex option, maybe back end RB2, but he'll come back down to earth. And I have him in 1, maybe 2 leagues, so I'm kind of hoping he keeps performing, but I'm not banking on it whatsoever.
Rashad Penny puts up 29 points. I have picked up Kenny Walker in a couple of leagues, and I've just been waiting for him to take over, but I think Rashad Penny might be the lock-in one for the rest of the year, man.
Well, and I have him, and I put a lot of stock into him. I think I've got him in probably 4 or 5 leagues. So I'm a Rashad Penny believer, but once again, I'm not going to sit there and think that this week is going to continue to happen every single week. He had 3 big runs in that game that pretty much gave him his big week. He'll go against the Saints this week. That'll be interesting to watch down in New Orleans to see if he can even get, double-digit points. I think that he's still going to be RB2, maybe flex option. But I don't think that he's going to, put up 20 points.
Do you think Kenneth Walker, do you think he offers any sort of resistance?
I do. I think, talking about the rookies, I mean, he had hernia surgery or something like that kept him out the first week, and they activated him for the second week, but didn't really play much against the 49ers. I think that he is by week 9, 10, I don't know if it's going to be a direct 50-50 split, but I could see a 65-35, 60-40 split carries between him and Penny. He's just, they spent too much draft capital on him, and not to say that he didn't spend a lot of draft capital on Penny because he was a first round pick. But I think that they want to incorporate him more into the offense. And I don't know if he's going to be startable in like 8 or 10 man leagues, 12-man leagues by week 9 or 10. I would say that you can probably start him. But I think he could be a flex option.
I think there is potential for Rashad Penny to be a lock it in RB2 every week by the end of the if Kenny Walker continues to see the limited work that he has. This Seattle running backs, I mean, they're always productive in fantasy. I mean, Pete Carroll runs the fucking ball. I mean, that's his favorite thing to do. And now, without Russell Wilson, he's got to do it even more. So I'm taking full stock in whoever the Seattle running back is. And right now, it seems to be Rashad Penny. I've shot out some offers from Rashad Penny already. I have Kenny Walker in a bunch of leagues. But Seattle's run game, like, I want that running back. And right now, it seems like it's Rashad Penny. So... moving on, we mentioned Dameon Pierce put up 26 points this week. That's nice to see. Jeff, man, he's back on track, putting up 32 points in London. Are we putting him back into that
against Lattimore?
Mm-hmm. Made him look silly, dude. Made him look silly.
Yeah, I think that if you're a JJ owner, obviously you could take a deep sigh of relief. But I think wide receiver 1 week in, week out, I don't have any complaints with that. I think that he's the number 2 wide receiver in the league. I mean, as much as I hyped him up to be a number 1 in the beginning of the season over Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford is not throwing to anybody but Cooper Kupp. Whereas Kirk has definitely started to incorporate Thielen more into this offense, which you're seeing week in and week out. I mean, week 1 didn't really target him too much, which is why JJ had his incredible week. But 2, 3, and 4, Thielen's definitely had, anywhere from like 6 to 10 targets, I think. So Kirk is definitely incorporating him more into the passing game. Little KJ Osborne here and there as well, some Irv Smith. So the target share has been spread around a little bit more, but Jefferson's still going to take full advantage. And if you've got him against a weaker cornerback, man, he's going to eat him. He's going to eat him alive.
And he did against a really good cornerback in Marshawn Lattimore, and he made him look stupid. He was talking shit to him the whole game. Like he was.
I said Marcus Lattimore. That was the running back for South Carolina.
Towards ACL.
Hit. Or that he didn't hit him. They were on the same
South
team
Carolina
together. My apologies, but yeah,
it was one of the worst college football injuries of all time.
Yeah, I always get Marcus and Marshawn, but yeah, Marshawn Lattimore nonetheless is top tier cornerback, and Jefferson had a field day against him.
Another guy with a big week at the wide receiver position, Mike Evans. He puts up 30 points, gets 2 tuds. That really hurt me. Mitchell had him. He basically had all these guys on this list. It seems like that hurt.
I think he's wide receiver 1. I think he's matchup proof as well because of his size and because of the red zone targets that he's going to get. I love Mike Evans. I think that he's might even be top 5, but definitely top 10 receiver in this league. And I think you can count on him week in and week out.
If Tom Brady can play at an effective level for the rest of the season, like I know, like I hate to be the guy who's betting against Tom Brady, but he's just not looked good so far. Like, he was forced into passing many times against the Chiefs because they were so far behind. Like, and he put up decent numbers.
Yeah, I think they had like 27 or 28 straight passing attempts in that game at one point.
Yeah, and without Gronk there, though, I mean, I agree. I think Mike Evans is floating around that definitely top 10, if not top 6 territory for sure. And Chris Godwin, we mentioned earlier, he did look really good in his return. He's banged up. But if he can stay healthy, it does look like we have Chris Godwin back. But moving down the list, T. Higgins put up 27 points this week, which was nice to see. T.J. Hawkinson, already mentioned him, 41 points. Mo Alley Cox, after Jelani Woods caught 2 touchdowns last week, Mo Alley Cox, it's his turn to catch the 2 touchdowns. He gets 27 points this week. Is there...
I remember watching him at VCU when he was playing basketball at VCU. It's crazy to see these guys make that transition from basketball over to the NFL. Jimmy Graham, Antonio Gates, even Tony Gonzalez. It's crazy, but yeah, he takes the advantage of his opportunities, especially in the red zone.
Is there a good tight end you feel about in Indianapolis? I feel like it's just going to vary. I would probably roster Alec Cox over Jelani Woods if you were going to pick somebody up.
It's a total crapshoot. Yeah, week in and week out, one of those guys is going to get a touchdown, and the other guy's going to get 1 catch for 5 yards, and then you're going to be stuck with that. So I I would much rather go after like a Hayden Hurst or even a Gerald Everett if he's still available, which I doubt he is. But I think there's better options than any of the Colts tight ends.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last guy on the list, Travis Kelce, puts up 24 points, Mr. Stud, Mr. Consistent. But
I mean, the guy just continues every week, every year to just get, I don't know, anywhere from 8 to 12 catches, and will get close to, if not 100 yards. So I'm done doubting him. No matter how old he gets, he's just an absolute beast.
For sure. All right. So that moves us on from the studs and duds segment. Yeah, timeout. We are sitting at an hour 45. So do you just want to do the contender pretender segment and then call it a night? Okay.
Yeah, I think that works. What else did we have? Like takeaways?
Yeah, just random I kind of turned the takeaway segment and just whatever you think that should be said from the week, something that you saw interesting. And I feel like we've set up a lot of our takeaways already. But
yeah, the only thing I had was like Packers not that good. Who's the best team? Cowboys could win the NFC East. Falcons are going to make some noise. Saquon. Yeah, we pretty much went over.
And we could talk about whatever we didn't talk about today. We could talk about on next episode. So
yeah.
All right. So that you guys got a little sneak peek into insider talks between two Blitz Pod members. That was pretty sweet. But all right, let's move on.
That BTS.
You know it, and it's after hours right now, so we're really into it.
The behind the scenes after hours. Ooh.
All right, man. So, without further ado, we hop into the segment that we've been running these past couple weeks, and that is key takeaways. And the one major thing that we're going to do is the contenders, pretenders, 4 key takeaways this week. And right here, we have all the 2-2 teams in the NFL as it sits currently. And if you're listening on audio version,
except for the
Bears, because I feel bad.
I think
I mean, is it really a fucking discussion? Like, do we have to put them up here just to say pretender? No, we don't. So I didn't include the Bears. I'm sorry, but these are the teams that are up here right now. We have the Cincinnati Bengals. Then we have the Cincinnati Bengals, who won against Miami on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, let's go one by one. Let's start with the Bengals.
Okay. All right. So they won their game against Miami, got back on track. Their offense looks like it's back in play. Joe Burrow looks like he's not getting sacked as often. So are we thinking contender, pretender, man?
I think they're a contender. I don't think there's any doubt about it. The Super Bowl hangover is a real thing. We saw that in the first couple weeks. They had that get-right game against the Jets, which I know is another 2-2 team. And this week's a huge week. You know, they're going to Baltimore on Sunday Night Football, chance to have the division lead. This is a very big week for both Cincinnati and Baltimore, but no matter what happens, I still think the Bengals are going to end up getting into the playoffs because, to be honest, I don't think the AFC is as good as what it was presumed to be at the beginning of the year. Like we were talking about.
Well, it is, but teams are losing to the other AFC teams. Like they're eating each other alive already. Like, I mean, that was what was going to happen, right? Like, I mean,
we didn't see the Chargers losing to the Jags at the beginning of the year. I understand injuries happen, but like the Titans lost to the Giants. I'm trying to think. The Colts, we didn't see them being as bad as they've been. The Broncos, I don't think they're another team.
Bengals have had some tough losses.
I think that
so far. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's. I think it's still a good conference. Don't get me wrong. I still think it's better than the NFC, but I don't think it's as good as what it's made out to be.
True. Yeah, I mean, taking a Cincinnati team that made it out of the AFC to win or to make it to the Super Bowl, yeah, I'll go ahead and call them a contender as well.
What do you? Yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, so we both agree with Cincinnati being
the only concern was the offensive line and whether or not it was going to get it together. But it seems like they have gotten it together fairly quickly after a couple weeks of adjusting to some new names and some new chemistry. So yeah, and I mean T. Higgins looks just as good as he was last year. Jamar Chase is getting a lot of attention this year, obviously, but Tyler Boyd looks like he's back.
Yeah,
like.
The one guy that we haven't talked about in the entire episode that I would buy right now if you're a fantasy owner is Joe Mixon. He's still getting the amount of carries that you would want from an RB1. He's just not getting those. He just hasn't busted any of those big runs, which are going to happen. And I think that he's also going to get more red zone looks down the stretch than what he's gotten. So if you can go get Joe Mixon, I absolutely would get Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
right now.
I would, unless you're scarred by his injury history, like myself. I won't be trading for Joe Mixon just because of that. So he has not played a full season in the NFL until last year. I'm pretty positive, and maybe his rookie year. But I mean,
I think he was also injured a game or two last year, actually,
yeah,
too.
So I mean, he's an injury-laden running back for sure. But despite all that,
just with how thin the RB1s are right now in fantasy, I mean, I think he is as sure of an RB1 as you're going to get in fantasy.
Yeah, for sure. Catching passes, getting the work out of the backfield. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals are, in fact, a contender after beating the Dolphins this past week. Next team that we got is the Cleveland Browns, who took a Week 4 loss to the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a pretender, dude.
I'm 50-50 on them because are we describing a contender as somebody that can make the playoffs or as a Super Bowl contender? Because to make the playoffs, I still could see them possibly.
I would say playoffs,
I'll agree with you. I think that they're a pretender as well. I think that there's too many question marks, and I don't think that a Jacoby Brissett team can go to the playoffs. I just don't.
Yeah, no. And even when Deshaun Watson gets back, I mean, we have no clue what this offense is going to look like. Stefanski doesn't have a clue what it's going to look like. I mean, it's going to be a whole new thing. There's going to be an adjustment period. This is not the year for the Browns. Next year. And they haven't looked good. Their unit hasn't looked good outside of the quarterback position either. They're running, Nick Chubb has played really well so far this year, but overall, Cleveland's running game is not as effective so far than it has been in the past. And if they can't get that working, even more effectively, it needs to be more effective than last year because of your quarterback play. And if you can't get that going, that's a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and place the Browns in the pretender category, and you do the same. So Cleveland Browns are a certified pretender. So that takes us to our next team, and that is Mitchell McDonald's very own LA Chargers. They come off a Week 4 dub against Houston at Houston, and I will say, not based off the context that they will make the playoffs, but compared to the preseason expectations, I do think that the Chargers are a pretender. I don't think that Brandon Staley can win this team. I don't think he can get this team to the NFC or the AFC Championship. And
I mean, this was a team, yes, that had those expectations, very lofty expectations, but I still think that this team gets to the playoffs. I still think this is the
I think they make the playoffs
in the AFC. They've got a huge game this week at Cleveland. If they win that, they're right on track at being 3-2. I still think that this team is above and beyond better than the Broncos and the Raiders in their division. And yes, they've really been hit with the injury bug. I mean, let's be real. Joey Bosa, Rashawn Slater, all those guys that have been hurt so far this year for the Chargers. So I still have confidence that this team is a contender and that this team is going to end up making the playoffs.
Just said, the injury bug has hit them, but it's not just a couple of weeks for Rashawn Slater. He's out for the rest of the year.
Correct.
It's not going to – there's no help coming.
Jamari Salyer looks pretty solid.
Yeah, okay. He's not Rashawn Slater.
He's not. And nobody – I mean, you're not just going to find anybody that is going to be. But if he can at least – perform 70% of what Slater was doing, then you're very happy if you're a Chargers fan.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I don't know. I really think it all falls on Brandon Staley, and this roster is built to win a Super Bowl. They should be clearly the number one, a top 5 team in football right now, and we have them sitting at 12, 13 in our power rankings. Come on now, dude. That's pretty fucking disappointing. So
agreed.
But
the ship hasn't completely sunk. I don't think that their season is completely done at this point. They're still 2-2. They're right in the thick of it. And I think that if they get a couple of things going here and there and they get the wheels turning, by the end of the season, they'll absolutely.
Would you agree, though? I think they'll definitely be in the playoffs. I'm not debating that at all. But, like, before the season started, were you locking the Chargers in almost as AFC Championship, like, appearancers? Or
No, but I would say that I had them winning the division. I will say that. I did have them winning the AFC West. I just think that there was so much competition between the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, even the Bengals, that I don't know if I really had them in the AFC Championship. I think it was absolutely a conversation for sure. I think that they're still on any given week can beat any of those teams. I mean, they're basically a pick six away from beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead. So I think the defense is vastly improved from last year as well. I still think that that's going to be a core point of their team, is relying a little bit on that defense more so than they have in previous years. So I think that they could still make that run toward an AFC Championship. I really and truly do.
Okay. I'm just like, the Chargers were one of 3 teams before the season started that was guaranteed to make the AFC Championship in my eyes. It was the Bills, the Chiefs, and then the Chargers. I mean, that was our power rankings, not in order, but those were our top 3 teams.
And I still think, and I know that we have them lower on our power rankings right now, but I still think that they could get to that AFC Championship. I mean, the Bengals made it last year, and anything's possible.
All right, let's move on from the Chargers talk. I'll stop shitting on them, Mitchell. I'm sorry. We move on. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's rip.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we got the Falcons next on the slate. They played Week 4 against the Browns, and they came out with the dub. We've talked a lot about Atlanta so far. We don't need to dive too heavy into it, but
I think they're a contender. I think that I think they could sneak in as a 6 or 7 seed into the playoffs.
Yeah,
in
the NFC. I mean, but that's probably excluding teams like the Rams, the Cardinals.
Okay. No, I would say 2 teams. Maybe the Cowboys. You might be excluding the Cowboys out of that, but you could. Okay, I'll run it down for you. So Tampa Bay, the 49ers, the Eagles, and then we'll give it to the Packers. And then you've got the Vikings, the Cowboys, and then who's in that 7?
Yeah.
It's the Rams, it's the Falcons.
It was going to be the Saints.
We were thinking it was going to be the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it can't be the Saints this year. So
the Cardinals maybe. So there's that spot is up for grabs in my opinion, and I think the Falcons could contend and sneak in and get that final wild.
I'm with it.
Spot.
All right, we'll do it. All right, I'm cool. Let's do it. Let's call the Atlanta Falcons a contender because I do think that they will make the playoffs. All right, let's move on, and this should be a short conversation. Week 4 dub against the Rams. That is the 49ers. That extends their contender. That extends their regular season streak against the Rams to 7 in a row. That's insane.
Which is wild against McVay. Yeah. Garoppolo's never lost to them in the regular season.
Neither is Shanahan. We go. Okay. All right, we're back. Okay. So let's rattle off the rest of these power rankings.
Yeah, I had real quick with them. I had them and the Eagles and the Vikings as my 3 teams that would make the NFC Championship. 2 out of those 3. So, and I think that they're still right there. I think that they're probably going to end up winning this division.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that made the NFC Championship last year with basically the same roster. You put Jimmy G in the same position. I mean, I love it for the 49ers. So, yeah, contenders for sure. Cardinals, they're sitting at 2-2. They catch a dub against Carolina. I think they're pretty clearly pretenders now.
I think they're a pretender as well. I don't have this team making the playoffs. I think there's too many question marks on this defense for me to consider them a contender. I know that they, I guess, had a great defensive showing against the Panthers, which I think every team does. So I'm not sold on the Cardinals whatsoever.
No, yeah, me neither. Kyler looks really confused out there. He's running around with like a chicken with his head cut off, in my opinion. Like, it's ugly.
Yeah.
And James Conner has not been James Conner so far this year. And it's not like a ton of help is coming. I mean, I know D-Hop's coming back, but I mean, I've already been clear about my thoughts on D-Hop. So there's not anything coming to help Arizona necessarily.
Especially on the defense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, dude. J.J. Watt, his heart stopping. And then
I saw that, yeah.
him going into AFib and then having to restart his heart. Dude, the man was emotional in his post-game press conference. I mean, dude, he almost died. Like, holy shit.
I know.
That's insane.
It's not a good thing for the center point of your defense to be going through that.
No, sir. Let's move on to the next team that we got, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. They came out with a Week 4 dub at Detroit. I'll say pretender.
I'm going to go with pretender as well. I do like what I've seen from Geno and in this offense. It actually looks pretty good. But I don't think that they're going to be able to beat out the other 3 teams in this division. And I don't think that they're going to be able to beat out any of the other wildcard teams.
No, it's like, I mean, the names on the roster aren't too exciting. I mean, the offensive line stinks. The defense stinks. I mean, you've still got Lockett and DK there, but and they can be productive with Geno, but I mean, that's all. I'm not feeling it. I have liked what I've seen, especially their dub against the Lions this past week, but yeah, pretender. Titans is the next team on the docket. They had a Week 4 dub at Indianapolis, and in the AFC, I'll go ahead and call it Titans a pretender.
See, I'm going to call them a contender because of the division that they're in. They very quickly wrote the ship. You know, we called that game against the Raiders. Whoever wins this game is going to put their season back on track, and whoever loses, their season's probably done. And the Titans have really quickly put their season back on track. They're 2-2. They're tied for first place in this division, and it's the dog shit, the armpit of America when it comes to divisions. But I have to label them as a contender because I still think that they can win this division.
Okay, well, that will lead me in my next team. I'll jump down the list a little bit, and I'll go the Jags because I think they are a contender, and I think they win the division in that armpit of the division.
I think that they're a contender as well, not only in the division, but I do think that they could sneak in as a wild card team.
Hell yeah.
I think that either them or the Titans could because of their division, because of the games against the Colts and the Texans that they've got. So yeah, I think that, you know, them getting a win in the Chargers, I know that Herbert was hurt in that game, but just the way they did it was just an absolute ass kicking. Last week, I know they lost to Philly. Trevor Lawrence had 4 fumbles that he lost. It was
in the rain.
The weather was just awful. I think that they get back on track this week against
the best team in football right now, arguably.
Yeah.
You know,
so I think I absolutely agree with you. I think that they are a contender. I like the chemistry between Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. I really like, and it was something that I hyped up earlier in the year as being something, you know, we saw what he did with Carson Wentz. And I think that this is just a match made in heaven for the Jags and their fans.
Lawrence's progression is finally starting. Like, it didn't start, it started after Urban Meyer left, and now you're starting to see Trevor Lawrence play like Trevor Lawrence, so it's cool. All right, let's move on to the Jets, who had a Week 4 dub at Pittsburgh. I'll go ahead and call them pretenders.
Yeah, I got to go with pretender as well. I still think that they're a year away. But this time next year, you know, this is a team that I could see, you know, right up there with the Dolphins and Bills as possibly being a contender to win the AFC East. I think that they are above and beyond better than the Patriots. They might end up splitting with them, which they typically do whenever the Jets have a decent team. But I still think that they are a year away. But I like what I've seen. You know, like I was talking about the offensive playmakers that they have. And then their defense is actually pretty solid as well. Nobody's really talking about
looks like that guy.
And I had him as my rookie of the year at the beginning of the year. We'll see what happens, but he's really turned it into a very good cornerback, even though we're only 4 weeks in.
Lockdown for sure. I mean, we mentioned Surtain looking really good. Him and Sauce are probably the 2 best corners in football right now. Then you move on to the next team, and that is the Ravens, who suffered a Week 4 loss versus Buffalo.
They're 14 seconds away from being undefeated. They're absolutely a contender. I think that this team is, in my opinion, I still think that they're going to win the AFC North over the Browns and Bengals and Steelers. And I think that this is going to be a get-right game for them. I do think that they beat the Bengals this week.
I think them getting rid of Wink, I mean, that is, like, it has looked so terrible. If that defense can't get it together, man, I mean, This team goes as Lamar goes, and if Lamar has a shitty week, if he takes a week off, I mean, you're fucked. Like, you are absolutely fucked. Like, Lamar
I'll say this. I think it's a psychological thing. As soon as they have a big lead and they end up winning, and winning in convincing fashion, all that's going to go out the window. It's just getting that monkey off their back.
For sure. Okay, fair. I'll call them a contender just because it's fucking Ravens. Broncos, week 4 loss at Vegas. I'm strongly saying that this is a pretender.
I am as well. There's no identity to this offense. They had less than 300 yards against a very bad Raiders defense in which they were down the majority of that game. So you'd think that with Russell Wilson and those weapons like Judy and Cortland Sutton against a pretty bad secondary when it comes to the Raiders, they would be able to at least put up 300 yards of total offense, and they did nothing. There's big concerns with their running back room right now because Melvin Gordon has fumbled 5 times on 44 carries. I mean, they brought in Latavius Murray, so we'll see what happens there. Everybody adding Mike Boone might want to halt the brakes there because them bringing in Latavius Murray tells me that Latavius is probably going to be taking more of the running back duties, because a lot of times what teams will do is when they bring in a third running back, sometimes they'll implement them more into the special teams role. Mike Boone's going to stay in that special teams role because Latavius Murray is not going to be doing anything on the special teams. He's just a downhill runner. So I think that he's going to factor in more into this offense than Mike Boone.
That's crazy because Latavius was playing for the Saints on Sunday.
He was on the Saints. He was playing in London with the Saints, and now he will be going and playing for Denver in 2 days.
That's insane. Because I was like, dude, is that fucking Latavius Murray? They must have signed him because of Kamara. Like the morning,
they did.
Yeah. So they had a sense that, and I was like, oh, okay. Like I guess Latavius Murray is back to being the Saints. Like, okay, that's cool. And now he's just moving on to the fucking Broncos. Like, dude,
but it
literally
tells
a day
me
later.
And not to say Mike Boone won't get some third down work, but I think that this is going to be more of, I think it's Melvin Gordon's backfield, and I would be ranking him as like a top 20 running back this week, top 25 running back. But if the fumble issues continue, they're going to have to revert to Latavius and even some more of Mike Boone.
And this is last because I know we want to run through these, but I think Melvin Gordon is, without Javonte now, is a top 15 running back going forward just because of the usage he's going to get. And like, I know he's not as good as he used to be, but Melvin Gordon is still good at football. Like, I've always been a fan.
Well, and it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be A, he's going to put these fumbling issues behind him, which I think he will because he's a veteran and he thrives off situations like this, or B, he's going to continue the fumble issues and then eventually have to be forced to bench. Right. One of those two is going to end up happening. I think it's going to be the former, and I think that he's going to end up leading this backfield.
Fair enough. All right, let's rattle through our last two teams here, and they're pretty spicy. First, we got the Bucs, who suffered a Week 4 loss versus Kansas City. And then we've got the Rams, who suffered a Week 4 loss at San Fran. Let's start with the Bucs. What do you think?
I think they're still a contender. They're tied for first in this division with the Falcons. I think that they end up winning this division. We talked about Tom Brady now on the verge of being a single man, and I can only imagine what this means for the rest of the league. But I think that the injuries that they've had are starting to be put on the back burner, and they're starting to get these guys back. So I think that that bodes well for Tampa. And like I said, this defense is not as bad as they were on Sunday night against the Chiefs. So I think that they're going to have a nice bounce back week against, one of our teams that we said was a contender in the Falcons. But I think that Brady and the Bucs will be just fine.
Yeah, now that the weapons are back and we saw what it can look like. I mean, even though they did get their shit rocked by the Chiefs, like that offense in the second half did look a lot better than what we've seen like so far this year. At least Tom Brady can't throw the ball to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and keep him in that contender category because I'm not going to be the guy who calls Tom Brady a pretender after he just got a divorce lawyer. So, last team we got is the L.A. Rams, dude. Like I said, suffered that loss yesterday night against the Niners. And right now, that defense is so scary, bad, that I think I got to call him a pretender.
Yeah, I'm going pretender as well. There's too many question marks on this line. And if a team shuts down Cooper Kupp, what are you going to do? Because Allen Robinson has done nothing. We've talked about it. I mean, Higbee's there. The running backs have been meh. I mean, Henderson and Akers. I know Henderson had a pretty good week 1, but like other than that, they have not. And then they're
both getting the work. They're both getting the work. That's weird. Like
they are splitting.
Cam Akers had 2 points. With 8 carries, dude. Like, what?
You saw Tack McKinley and another guy on their defense, I can't remember, getting into it on the sidelines, and that's not what you want to see when your team's getting their ass kicked. And Matt Stafford, we've talked about it, just doesn't look good. There were so many throws behind guys that was just on Matt Stafford. Like, I'll give some credit to the 49ers D, but like this team is
maybe it's
got
elbow.
Some major problems. It might be the elbow.
I think it is, dude, because that
was a word that we talked about at the beginning of the year with like pitchers having problems with their elbows in the past, like Tommy John, and this was a very similar injury, and maybe it is bothering him. But I know McVay is a mastermind. I'm not going to sit there and say he's not, but like he can only do so much, and right. I'm labeling them as a pretender.
That's why they got rid of Goff and got Stafford, because he needs a quarterback to run that offense, So, but I mean, not a lot of football people are associate with baseball, Like, I think that's a general assumption to make. And, like, when you hear Tommy John as a baseball person, like, I shiver. Like, it makes me
cringe. What that means.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's not a good thing to be surrounded Matt Stafford, and it does look like it's affecting him. So, all right. Well, we're sitting at 2 hours and 5 minutes. We got some solid content in, man. I feel good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a fun another week on our hands. I mean, this is when teams go from we can just wrap it up. I'll just say I'm excited for this week.
We're back. So, we were just doing a little outro before we got interrupted, but go ahead.
Yeah, just excited for this week. This is week 5 now. We're this week will mark over a quarter of the season already done, which is wild to think about. But yeah, I'm excited. I get to go to my first Vikings home game this week. I'm excited to check out US Bank, and hopefully the Vikings will beat the shit out of the Bears. So I'm excited for it.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm excited to see that content coming out on the Instagram story. That'll be fun to watch. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for an episode later this week. It will definitely come out later this week. Sorry about last week. Just got caught up with shit, but we'll definitely have our picks out this week. Definitely have another episode out. So yeah, look forward to that. But until then,